What's up, you guys? Alright, I'm sitting here at the pilot in Sioux City, Iowa right now. I'm going to be making a delivery tomorrow morning. That'll be a separate video from this one. And figure out what I was buzzing for. Okay, so anyway, I'm just kicking back here, killing time. I don't deliver till tomorrow morning. I basically have enough time here because I got here yesterday evening around 5:30 or so. I have enough time to do a whole 34-hour reset before I deliver this load, which is right down the street from here by about 4 miles. Again, that'll be another video you'll hopefully see the day after you see this one available. This one here, I'm just kind of decided I'm going to kill some time. I just got through showering, and then I went down the street to...
You have one unread
message. I know. Anyway, I just went to eat and get a drink. We're at this Four Brothers Grill and Bar down the street over by Walmart. Not bad. I wouldn't call it stellar service, but it was, it's not bad. Food was decent. Overall, can't complain, I guess. A couple of things maybe could have been a little bit better, but I'm not really doing this video to talk about that anyway. The theme of this video is going to be about stolen valor or posers in trucking. Because I have a few experiences I'd like to share with you guys. And of course, you guys who know me well know that I'm an Air Force vet myself. Before I got into trucking, which I did about coming up on 6 years ago. Prior to that, I was in the Air Force, on the Air Force Reserve. I ended up retiring from the Air Force Reserve. I did 4 years of active duty at Davis Mountain Air Force Base in Tucson, Arizona, back in 95 to 99. I was a crew chief on EC-130 aircraft. And after that, I went to the reserves at March Air Reserve Base, California, over by Riverside, Moreno Valley area. I was a Flightline C-141 crew chief there for about maybe a year and a half, I'd say. Yeah, about that. And then I got hired full-time as what you call an Air Reserve Technician, or an ART, which is basically a dual status civilian/reserve position, working in what we call AR shop. But basically it's a back shop that specializes in flight controls, landing gear, and actuated doors. Any kind of troubleshooting on those systems, I was the guy. We did crash recovery as well. Also handled wheel and tire shop. And yeah, basically we were crew chiefs on steroids. We had to be we were crew chiefs by trade, but we had extra capabilities. We had more equipment and more profound knowledge of those three systems that I was just talking about than what the average Flightline crew chief would have. So I have quite a bit of experience there, and like I said, I did a full 20 years, and I want to talk about a few experiences I've had with posers in trucking, specifically posers. Well, the last one I'm going to talk about was not a JCT driver himself, but a JCT driver is the one who told me about the particular one, and I want to talk about that. First, I want to go to the two others who either did or do work, still drive for JCT. I don't want to name their names or anything. Well, maybe the first one, because I'm pretty sure he does not drive for us anymore. This was a fellow by the name of Vince. I think that was his name. Been so long. I think it was around my first year with JCT or somewhere around that. I got asked to do a swap with a guy who was from the Kansas area, like kind of eastern Kansas, I guess. He was trying to get home for a medical appointment of whatever sort. So he asked me if I'd swap with him. I was going to end up going up US 54 from Tucumcari. Where was that load going? It might have been going to Moberly, Missouri or something. I don't know. It was going in that general direction, though. And they had asked me if I could swap with him so he could get home. Anyway, I was like, okay, yeah, I don't really mind. They ended up setting me up to swap with him at the Pilot in Stratford, Texas, which is right where US 54 and US 287 meet up. If you go straight up to the north from Amarillo, right where US 54 crosses it is where you'll find Stratford. All right, so I get over there to the swap point. I don't know how far out the guy is or anything. I just knew that I was looking for this specific truck number. This was the guy's name, and this was his phone number. That's it. So I get over the swap point. I get parked. Start doing a 10-hour break, and I call the other driver up. Ask him, hey, just FYI, I'm at the swap point now. Just wanted to know when you're gonna be here. And he was still over in, I think, further over in Kansas. So, yeah, and he said he was going to be another like 4.5 hours. So I'm like, okay, no problem. As long as I know when to expect to be ready for you, and whether or not I need to save a spot for him or not or anything. So, anyway, we end up getting to chit chatting. Sometimes when you swap with another driver, all you really do is they might only want to know, like, what's your ETA, or give you their ETA, and that's it, and then move on. Others, they might be in more of a chatty mood and want to chit chat, and I'm okay with that, depending on what I have going on. So, yeah, and I was okay with chit chatting at that particular time. So I ended up talking to him for a while. He's telling me about how he used to do bull hauling. He actually owns a big property in Kansas that has open range cows that he would, he would breed and slaughter, whatever, or, not slaughter, but send to the beef, slaughterhouses and all that. Anyway, how did it come up? I don't remember. I know at some point I probably told him I was in the Air Force, or no, I didn't even say that. We were just talking, and he said that he was previously in the military, and he just said military. He didn't really give any kind of specific info, and of course that piqued my curiosity because I'm a veteran. So, yeah, even if he wasn't the same branch as me, a lot of times we can at least find something relatable to talk about with that. To some extent. So, I started asking him about his military background later on after he got through talking about whatever. I asked him, hey, what kind of background do you have? And he goes, I was in the Army. Oh, okay, what'd you do? I was a Black Hawk pilot. Okay, so I'm going to have a theme to this here in a minute. So, yeah. Black Hawk pilot, or a pilot of any kind, really. I'm going to caution you, if there's somebody who says that they're a pilot and they are now driving a truck for a living, they're probably full of shit. Just going to put this right out there right now. I don't know for sure whether this guy really did serve in the Army or not. Because there are actually people who really did serve, but will embellish their actual service history. Some people will claim that they got awards and decks that they didn't really earn, or sometimes they'll just try to impress someone saying that they did this or that this or that, whatever, when they really didn't, even though they really did serve. I know there was one stolen valor case I read about a few years back. A guy who really did serve in the Marine Corps, and then he showed up in his uniform. At a school or something like that, and it turned out he was stolen valor. And it wasn't so much stolen valor, but he'd only done like a short amount of time in the Marine Corps. I don't even think he made it a year. I think he got discharged medically or something like that, and but he was embellishing what he really did do in the Marine Corps. So that's also stolen valor. And it's not cool, guys. If you think it's okay to tell this kind of bullshit, don't do it. And especially don't do this to a military vet, because you get the nice end of it with me, but only to an extent. And I say when it comes to, I'm dealing with a JCT driver who's a poser. I'm going to try to be as polite and professional as I can, but at the same time, you lost all respect. And I'm not going to have anything to do with you again. I will refuse to swap with you. I'm going to cut off the conversation as quickly as I can and just move on. And I might go talking shit about you to other people in the company, but I'm not going to be confrontational and tell you to quit lying and all, and start, because some people will get their ass kicked over like if they start telling that kind of shit. You know, some of these guys who were really in the military will kick your ass and beat the crap out of you for even thinking about telling some bullshit stories. So, my advice: don't do it. Just be who you are. All right, that's kind of the theme that I'm going to talk about here. But I'm going to, it's story time here. So let's tell all the stories first. All right, so this guy said he was a Black Hawk pilot, and so I kind of rolled my eyes. I'm like, sure you were. You're driving a truck now. I mean, I didn't say it then, but I was like, kind of raised eyebrow about it. And then he goes, later on, he ends up telling me about how I think he said he served from 1997 to 2003 or something along that line. Which doesn't quite sound right. Well, I don't know. It might have been about right, because I know Air Force pilots usually do about 8-year enlistments, or not enlistments, commissions, obligations before they can either re-up or flee to the airlines or wherever else they end up going. A Black Hawk pilot, normally when you're done with your time in the military, you usually end up going to be either a law enforcement helicopter pilot or maybe a helicopter pilot of some sort, or maybe a medevac pilot, like a Mercy Air or something, life flight kind of stuff. And pilots, whether you're flying fixed wing or rotary wing, have a medical qualification. Guess who else does? Truckers. So you have to wonder, if you were a pilot of any kind back then, why are you driving a truck for a living? Because if you really were a pilot, you'd probably be staying a pilot. Why would you take a career that pays you less than pays the average trucker less than $100,000 a year, when you could be taking a pilot position that pays $200,000 plus, and still be doing what you love too? So for that reason, I say usually posers are going to tell you that they were either a pilot or they were some kind of special forces type, some kind of badass, whatever it was, something with some kind of prestige or desire, likable, or whatever. Whenever they say this, so instantly off the bat, when someone tells me they're a pilot from any branch and they're in a truck now, I'm calling bullshit on them. Anyway. This story gets better too, way better. So I asked him, well, where was he stationed? And he goes, Fort Riley, Kansas, which is pretty close to where he lives. Not too far away from where he lives. He's just not like real close to Fort Riley, but not very far away. Fort Riley, if you're not familiar with it, is right along I-70 in the eastern half of Kansas. Where is that? West of Topeka, I guess I would call it. I only go through there a very small amount, so I forget exactly where it's at. I know it's right along the north side of Interstate 70, though. So anyway, he said he was stationed there. I was like, okay, yeah. And here's the other thing. He said he was a captain. And I'm like, a captain? Flying Blackhawks? Okay, I guess. Just, and Now, why I say that was because everybody I know who has helicopter pilot experience in the Marine Corps or the Army usually always says that they're a warrant officer, not a commissioned officer. So later on, I ended up asking some of my friends at work who used to be actually helicopter crew chiefs in the Army or Marine Corps. And they all told me that, yeah, about 95% of the pilots that they dealt with were all warrant officers. And they did have actually commissioned officers fly their birds sometimes, but vast majority of them were all warrant officers. So saying he's a pilot, and then on top of that saying he was a captain, which is an 03 on helicopters, was getting more and more suspicious. And then it got better. I said when 9/11 happened, and now mind you, I enlisted in '95 and I retired in 2015. I was there when 9/11 happened. I was working when 9/11 happened, and I'll tell you what, that was not a fun experience for me, and I'll get to that in a little bit here. But this guy was telling me that when 9/11 happened, his unit got deployed to Ground Zero to do humanitarian work. I'm like, I kind of like, huh? I mean, I guess it was possible because my own unit at March Air Reserve Base, 452nd Air Mobility Wing, now I was working the day 9/11 happened, and I'll give you my 9/11 story. So I was getting ready for work when the first plane hit the South Tower, whatever, I forget which tower got hit first, but one of the towers got hit, and I'm still at the house getting ready and almost ready to leave for work. And I'm like, how the hell is that plane hit a freaking skyscraper unless it's done on purpose? So I was instantly really suspicious of that. And I end up getting to work, and then right before I got to work, the second tower got hit. And I'm like, no, this is definitely something funny going on. And also the size of the holes in the building. And even the first one, when I was still at home, the size of the hole that was put in the building, you couldn't tell me it was just some little Cessna or Mooney or Piper or something. This was a big aircraft, and I was like, this is way too suspicious, even as soon as I saw that. Get to work, find out the second tower got hit, and I was like, oh, this is definitely something funny going on here. Well, not funny at all, really. Something very offensive going on. And I ended up finding out very quickly after that it was a terrorist attack. Anyway, don't want to go all too much into that, but it was a nightmare of a day for me. I had my right tonsil removed a week before that, on September 4th, and I was in pain. If you've ever had a tonsil removed, it's not a fun experience. It hurts. It hurt to eat or drink. It hurt to swallow and all that. The doctor almost pulled both tonsils just because it's common for them to do that. But it was only the right one that was enlarged, and wasn't having any problems with the left one. And he knew I was going to have enough trouble with the right tonsil surgery anyway as it was. So he just decided to do that tonsil only. And thank God he did, because that was not fun. I ended up losing 10 pounds and couldn't eat very much. I could only do liquids, and I know it got to where it was like baby poop kind of coming out the other end later on. Coming all green because I was not getting the right nutrients. Anyway, 9/11 comes around, I'm working, and it was a long-ass day. We were trying to green up every aircraft we had on the flight line, and whatever else, basically anything that had any kind of problem. We were canning parts off of airplanes that were perhaps in the inspection dock, getting their scheduled inspections done or whatever, or something that's just hopelessly dead in the water, and getting other airplanes greened up as quickly as we could. And what I do is heavy duty work. We're talking about like removing and installing flight controls or landing gear or something like that. And that takes a while to do. It takes more than a shift to do a lot of times. Anyway, Yeah, not a fun day. And I spent 14 hours at work that day, I remember, and I ended up having to leave. Everybody else in my shop stayed, kept working past that. I ended up leaving only because I was having a real hard time because of the surgery. I was dehydrated. Just having I hated the fact that I had to go, but like, no, I'm gonna get to where I'm not safe. As dehydrated as I am, I can't drink any. Can only drink so much or whatever, even as it is. So my boss ended up letting me go, and everybody else stayed. I don't know how many more hours to keep greening up airplanes. And anyway, that day, the reason why I brought all this up is because there was a whole shit show of stuff going on at that base that day. We had our own C-141s that I used to work on. They were getting loaded up with FEMA and OES equipment. I had C-5s coming in, 747s. I think even those Vogel Nipper, what's that, the AN... I forget what the Antonov airplane. They're huge Antonov airplanes. One looks like a C-5 that has like 5 rows of tandem landing gear, and then there's another one that has like 7 rows of landing gear. Those came in. They were loading all kinds of shit up at our base, and then they were flying them all out to New York. So I know my unit's airplanes were getting used to fly people and their equipment out to New York, but they were only really there. They were only doing it to send all them out, not to stay there and do stuff themselves. I mean, there's only so much you can do with a large aircraft like that, except for transport them from basically do inter-theater operations, from one theater to another. So I knew what we were sending crews out there doing humanitarian work ourselves, sending the FEMA and OES crews there in their equipment, but that's all we were really doing with them. So it was kind of plausible that a helicopter unit might have been there to do the same thing, and then maybe because they can maneuver very quickly from one spot to another in smaller areas to get equipment to or people to certain spots. But, again, I was still a little bit skeptical. I don't know what the Army did at that point in time. I'm sure something got done, but to what extent and how, I don't know. So, try to give a little bit of benefit of doubt on this. But just the fact that he said he was a pilot and a captain on top of it in the Army, I was already suspicious as it was. So, this is, and of course, I'm already suspicious of you when you tell me something like that. I'm more apt to not believe it than I will to actually believe it. All right, so they end up. He tells me about how he ends up finishing their mission there, whatever, and then they got redeployed to the sandbox. Okay, so here's another thing for those of you guys, if you're not really sure how to spot a poser or something. All right, so when you're military to military having a discussion, we don't normally talk about the sandbox. We might say the Middle East or something, or we're more apt to say something a little more specific. Oh yeah, I was at Al Udeid in Qatar. A lot of people pronounce it Qatar, Qatar. There's an air base there called Al Udeid Air Base. So if it was someone like me talking to someone else, I would say, oh yeah, I was over at the Deed or Al Udeid Air Base or something. I never actually went to Al Udeid myself, but my unit did. More on that subject there. Anyway, we tend to know where the other bases are. Unless you're at a classified location, chances are we've probably heard of it, either through the Stars and Stripes magazine or from other intermilitary chatter, channels, whatever. We have kind of an idea, especially when I work on heavy airplanes, and we're taking a lot of those guys to their locations. Yeah, I know where you're going. I know where I've been. I may not have been there, but I know my airplane's been there or something along that line. So we don't tend to talk to each other like the sandbox. Usually, the sandbox is reserved for military people talking to civilians who have absolutely zero military background at all, or for posers who claim that they're military but really aren't. So that's something you gotta watch out for. Anyway, he said that his unit went straight from New York to some other location in the Middle East, basically. So I asked him, well, what? That's kind of weird. How'd you do that? And he ends up telling me, they put all of our stuff on ships and we sailed out there. I'm like, okay, this guy's full of shit now. Because for one, you're not going to put Army helicopters on a Navy ship when the Navy ship that can accommodate helicopters is trying to transport its own equipment, its own helicopters and fixed-wing aircraft. We call them rotary wing and fixed-wing aircraft. And they're only going to have enough room for their own equipment in their planes, whatever. They're not going to put Army crap on their ships. So I was like, this was definitely smelling a lot more like bullshit to me. And and it takes what, two weeks or so for a Navy ship to sail from New York to I don't know, Turkey or wherever they would end up going. Yeah, they could end up. I don't know. I'm not a Navy guy, so I'm not going to sit here and make up some bullshit story about where Navy guys actually poured in at. One of you guys who actually has that kind of experience can tell that kind of story. But I know it takes a good 2 weeks for ships and carriers to go from the West Coast U.S. to like Japan and all that, or Korea. So I'm like, they're not going to put all this shit on a ship and know that it's going to take 2 weeks to get it there when they can put it on a freaking Air Force airplane and fly it over there within a day. Now, mind you, I was a heavy aircraft crew chief. I worked on C-130s. I've personally seen Black Hawk helicopters get loaded into and out of C-130s. 130 can only hold one Black Hawk in it, but still, why would you put it in a ship when you can fold the rotors all up, put it inside the back of a C-130 or a C-17 or C-141 or C-5 or whatever the case might have been, and fly it over there within 24 hours, and have it, and then pull it back out, set it back up for flight, and you're instantly ready to fly as soon as you get on the within hours after you get on the ground at the deployed location. So this was bullshit to me. And then on top of that, there's another reason why I called bullshit on it, and that's because one of my own coworkers, he was a traditional reservist. He was augmenting another 141 unit at RAF Mildenhall in England. And basically what they were doing was going down to Kuwait, picking up all the dead and injured, and then they would go up to from Kuwait to Landstuhl, Germany. What the hell is that military hospital called? Okay, because that one there and the one at Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, I get mixed up with the names. They're like, one's Walter Reed and the other one is something else that's very similar, like similar initials, like WR, WS, whatever kind of initial. So I get that one in Germany mixed up with the one at Lackland. Anyway, they would fly the injured up to Germany first, and then they would fly back across they would fly over to Dover Air Force Base, Delaware, where the Air Force morgue is located, and drop off all the KIAs over there. And then they would fly back over to RAF Mildenhall to do whatever, I don't know, whatever they would do, swap crews or pick up more going south, going down that way. I don't know. But I had one single traditional reserve coworker who was augmenting some other units, 141s there, and he was already in Mildenhall. And then around 2002, my unit, the C-141 side of my unit, actually got activated and deployed to RAF Mildenhall. Same place he was already at. So when he's done with my coworker's done with his mission, his TDY that he was on, and he was they had him set up to join our unit there as well. It wasn't just as simple as him go, okay, I'm done here, and I go straight across the flight line to the others, to the other 141s that I normally work on. He had to fly all the way back to Riverside, or to Ontario, whatever, a commercial flight, or I think he did. I don't know, could have been a military flight, but he flew back to Southern Cal, had to in process at our base from his first deployment, and then he had to go back through the deployment processing center in March, do all his out processing stuff to go back out to Mildenhall, the same place he just left, so he could actually join our unit. There's a lot of procedure that gets followed when it comes to military deployments, and for this guy to tell me his whole unit went from New York straight out to the sandbox, it's like, sorry, you're full of shit. I know better. I was in the military myself. I know how things are done. I was an Air Force aircraft mechanic. Trust me. Don't try to bullshit with me about how things get transported. I know. Black Hawk, I think 2 or 3 of them can fit in a C-17, and then I want to say like 6 of them can fit in a C-5. C-5s their max takeoff weight is 900,000 pounds, and they're freaking huge, over 200 feet long. There's no question that you want to get your freaking Army helicopters into a deployed area. You put them in a C-5, they'll get there. You get a whole bunch of them there fast, almost a whole squadron of them right there. So bullshit. All right. So anyway, this guy goes to telling me more about how he was. I guess at some point he wasn't even flying. He was doing some kind of guard duty with some refugee camp. I'm like, you were doing guard duty in refugee camp when you were a pilot and they need you to fly. Whatever. Anyway, he ends up saying that there was, I guess, some kind of, like a blue on green attack or something, which is basically a friendly fire attack. Basically, where Afghanistanis, who were supposed to be friendly, attacked them. Set off some kind of bomb or whatever, IED. And he said he ended up getting a Purple Heart from it. And then later on, he said he ends up getting, get this, a Medal of Honor. And he said he was the only living officer right now at the time with the Medal of Honor. Everybody else was enlisted. They're like, okay, you're seriously full of shit now. You're going to tell me you got a Medal of Honor for working at some refugee camp? No. Sorry, it just doesn't work that way, buddy. But not buddy. You're no buddy of mine if you're going to tell this kind of shit. And he said that he got his Purple Heart straight from the president. At the same time, he got his Medal of Honor. I'm like, you're full of shit. So, for one, Purple Hearts. Okay, in the Air Force, we don't see many people who get Purple Hearts. Unless you're a pilot, and even then, most pilots never see harm by in any way. Usually, if an Air Force guy has a Purple Heart, they probably did the JFK thing or whoever it was, where they never actually were attacked by an enemy, but they just got some bullshit injury. Maybe drew blood or something, and that was all it took to be eligible for it. And so they got put in for it and qualified for it. It's a unit level award. I always get mixed up the unit types, whatever, in the Army and Marine Corps, battalion level, company level, I don't know, whatever you guys, in the Air Force we call them squadrons. So my squadron commander would be the one who would normally give out a Purple Heart. Of course, I was Air Force. We don't do Purple Hearts, really. The only times I really heard of Air Force people getting a Purple Heart was actually when I was stationed at Davis Monthan. One of the guys who was stationed at DM was deployed to Saudi Arabia, I think it was. Khobar Towers. I don't remember. I want to say it's Khobar. I want to say that's in Saudi Arabia, but I could be wrong. When someone basically brought a fuel truck outside the base there, and Khobar Towers is basically a deployed barracks that a barracks on that base there. A lot of U.S. military troops were staying in. And we had one person at DM who was actually there in Khobar Towers when it got bombed, and he got injured, and he got a Purple Heart out of it. Aside from him, I can honestly not think of anybody I worked with in the Air Force who ever had a Purple Heart, unless they had prior service in another military branch like the Army or Marine Corps, and they had some kind of combat experience on top of it. But as far as I'm concerned, Army and Marine Corps, if you're infantry, if any, or a grunt, or anything along that line, they probably give Purple Hearts out like candy for them. So I can't see that being a highly prestigious award. It is higher prestige, but I can't imagine that being given at any higher level than your own unit or the battalion or whatever kind of level. My type of organization, I would imagine my squadron or a group or wing commander would probably give that kind of recognition, not the president of the U.S. And of course, the Medal of Honor. It's only the president's the one who gives that out, but what you have to go through to even merit getting a Medal of Honor is obscene. Usually people who earn a Medal of Honor die before they ever even get they die in whatever it was that led to them getting that award. Now here's something else here. This guy said he had a Medal of Honor. I'm like, okay, I know you're full of shit, but I'm just getting it for the fun of it. Go on Wikipedia, where there is a list of every single Medal of Honor recipient there has been, living or dead. Guess whose name's not on there? Yeah, of course, his. So I knew he was full of shit. So ended up, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get off here. I gotta run inside, go use the restroom and stuff. And I naturally am one of those guys. Once I leave the truck and I go inside a building, my phone time is done. This is no bullshit. When I go inside the store, if I have to deal with cashiers, or if I'm going to a shitter or pisser or whatever, I am not going to be on the phone while that's going on, unless I absolutely need that person on the phone for whatever it is. And extremely unlikely it's going to happen unless I'm at the grocery store and I just need help from my wife or something. Hey, I'm looking for this or that, or can you help me out? Or something along that line. It's just who I am. It's mannerisms to me. Anyway, I kind of use that. I gotta get off the phone. I gotta do this and that, whatever. I need to get some sleep too before you get here. And got off the call as quickly as I could. And then when he showed up, he was like all decked out with like Army decals on his steps, and then another huge Army decal on the back of his truck. I think he had an American flag on the back too. Okay, I'm all for you being patriotic. If you want to support the Army and show off American flag, hey, awesome, great, all for that. But don't sit there and say that you were in the Army when you probably weren't. Or even if you were in the Army, don't embellish. At least tell the truth what you really did do. I tell the truth what I did do, and I can back it up. I don't sit there and embellish what awards and decks I got or what I really did do. I was just a freaking aircraft mechanic. Dime a dozen in the Air Force, not a pilot. I did have a coworker who actually would tell women, he was a horn dog basically. He would tell women that he was a pilot because they like to hear that. He's trying to score some ass, and that was all. He was the only reason he would tell them that. He was really an aircraft mechanic though, and he really was in the Air Force. But that's my point though. If someone says that they were a pilot in the military of any branch, and they're driving a truck for a living, you have to really question them. It's highly unlikely that they really were. Maybe there are some people who were, but Again, if you have a medical qualification to fly an airplane, and you have to have a medical qualification to drive a commercial motor vehicle as well. So, and odds are, if you can pass a physical for trucking, you probably are medically qualified to fly an airplane too, to an extent. There are certain little things that are different, like color vision you have to have in an airplane. I'm sure there's some other details in there, but by and large, if you're medically fit to drive a truck, you're probably also medically fit to fly an airplane or a helicopter or something. So I'm calling bullshit on that. Either if it's not because you're medically fit, a medical clearance issue, it's because you did something seriously wrong and you're no longer allowed to fly because you really fucked up. So yeah, let's talk about that one. If that is the case, prove it. Hey, life happens, you know. Some of us do make costly mistakes, and yeah, maybe hey, you still have some stories to tell about your experiences, and you know, you're still going to get people's interest, and the fact that you're honest about it is going to get more respect from people than telling some stuff that's bullshit. All right, so anyway, this guy finally shows up for the swap, and that was kind of one of those, I'm just going to do this as quickly as I can. I don't want to have too much, any more chit-chat with him than absolutely necessary. So, yeah, I kind of just got the deal done and then went back to my truck and, I'm done dealing with him. Then later on, I ended up, I was parked at the Loves in Santa Rosa, New Mexico, and I saw another JCT parked there. Yeah, this was probably a year later or so. And I didn't know that it was his truck. It was a black Freightliner, same color as the guy I was just talking about, but I didn't realize that was his truck. So I go up there to chit chat with him and realize it was him. I'm like, oh boy. Yeah, we'll make this short, and I'm gonna get at you. And he starts talking about his army background again, and like, yeah, bullshit. Like I say, I can't say he was not army, but I will say he was definitely not an army pilot. You know, definitely some bullshit in there to some extent. So that was the first story there. I know I was pretty long. Hey, why not? You know, we got plenty here to work with. Second story. This was another JCT driver. Actually, who still to this day drives for us. I only know this because, one, I saw him at our Fort Worth drop yard just a few months ago. And then I also saw him in our company newsletter pretty recently, too. I can't remember what it was. I think he had an anniversary or something. I think his picture was in there, like maybe he paid off a truck or something. I don't remember. I'm not going to name the name or what kind of truck he's in because it's too obvious who I'm talking about then. And with him still driving for JCT, I don't want to sit there and talk shit about my coworkers. But, well, in a way I'm going to, because, you know, this kind of thing, it's completely unacceptable to me. And it's, you know, it should be unacceptable for anybody to accept this kind of crap. All right, so this second guy, I only know because when I first got my CDL, and I was looking for input, actually constructive, objective feedback about CR England. Because when I was first going to go to CDL school, I was really eyeballing CR England. I know they have their reputation, but I live in Victorville. They have a CDL school in Fontana, 40 miles away from my house. They also have a terminal in Colton, also about 40 miles away. And I figured, okay, and also me knowing what I know about economics and investing and all that, I figured I would prefer to do reefer industry work. So I was kind of aiming in that direction. And, you know, I have a friend I went to I've known since kindergarten, who was a classmate of mine. He was also a truck driver. I asked him for input, and he had actually suggested Robertson's, basically, which is actually right there in Victorville, Oro Grande area, which is right next to Victorville. They actually had free CDL training as well, but they wanted a 2-year contract, and the Class B drivers there, because they do cement trucks, and the double hopper trucks, day cab double hoppers, pretty much only. And I didn't want to. I wanted to do. I wanted to pull 53-foot trailers. I don't want to do double hoppers. I want to actually do backings and stuff. It's fun. And I wanted to do OTR, get on the road. So it's like, nah, that's not doing enough for me. Not to mention the fact they wanted a 2-year contract there in return for paying for your CDL school. I'm like, that's way too long. If it turns out I don't like the company, and that's a long time to commit to them. And Sear England, on the other hand, was offering free CDL training in Fontana for a 9-month contract for normal people, and then a 6-month contract for veterans like myself. So like, oh, that sounds good. I'll do that. Anyway, before I actually committed to that, there was a certain person. Actually, I was looking all over Facebook for any kind of discussion about Sear England. And, of course, most of it was people talking shit on them. But I was like, there's got to be somebody here who has something positive, or at least, not biased to say about them. I want to know what they have to say. So I ended up finally coming across a woman from Pennsylvania who actually, her and her husband actually owned the 3 different trucks that they drove for. Did with Sear England, and they were trainers. And they really did. They really do have their own trucks. And she was actually very objective. And I was like, so I PM'd her, private messaged her and asked her for input. Hey, I'm thinking about going to Sear England. You're the only person I can seem to find who has something objective and whose input I really want to listen to. What can you tell me about them? And and it was mostly, people are going to have their bad things to say. It doesn't matter what company you're looking at. If you're on Indeed.com, TruckerReport.com, or whatever the other websites are, you're going to probably insert whatever company here. You're going to probably hear a whole bunch of people talking shit about the company. But there are people at each company who have years with that company. Why are they happy there and other people are not? Everyone has their own needs, or maybe the people who are not happy are just selfish and self-centered, and all they really care about is themselves, and they don't really care about having some kind of an equitable, good business relationship with whoever's paying their paychecks. So that's why I actually wanted to get her input. Anyway, fast forward. I had already done 2 years with Sear England by the time I decided to come to JCT. And then I start talking about how I'm coming to JCT, and then she's telling me about how she has a friend who drives for JCT. And I can't remember how they met, how they knew each other, but they knew each other personally somehow. Anyway, she told me about this particular person, and after I was already with JCT, when I first got with the company, we didn't have any Facebook groups. I was already with the company several months, I would say, before someone finally created a group. And like the very next day, someone's searching Facebook for people with John Christopher Trucking on their profiles, and a woman who actually still drives for JCT finds my profile that shows that I drive for them, and she asked me, hey, we just created a new group for JCT drivers. You interested in joining? I'm like, heck yeah. I was actually looking for JCT Facebook groups when I first started driving for the company, and there weren't any. So anyway, I'm in that group, and then not long after, I figure out that this mutual friend, I'll call him, was also in the group. And so I started talking to him, and we became friends. And I didn't really know much about him at all. Anyway, fast forward, I'm under a load going up Interstate 81 to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and it turns out this other guy was also on I-81. He was on his way over to like Newport News or Chesapeake or Gordonsville or somewhere over that way. You go basically east on US 64 or Remember on I-64 or I-70 or whatever, one of those interstates over there in Virginia, he was going to cut off from. I don't know that part of the U.S. well enough. Like, I've been through there, I just don't know it like the back of my hand like I do California. So some of you guys could, I don't know, it's somewhere in that ballpark. Anyway, I was going to end my day in Wytheville, which is in Virginia. Yeah, around the 70 to 80-ish mile markers in Virginia on I-81. And I get a hold of this guy and tell him, hey, I'm on my way to Harrisburg. Which way you headed? And he goes, I'm such and such. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to be shutting down in Wytheville. Where are you going to be shutting down at? So, I can go. I can stop there. We can meet up and have dinner or something like that. So we end up meeting up at the Flying J there. Not the one that has the Wendy's, but the one that has the Denny's. And end up meeting up there, have dinner together. And yeah, it's part of the conversation we were having. He was asking me how long I'd been driving. I told him only about 3.5 years, whatever it was at the time, around 3 years. I think I was past 3 year mark, but not very far. And he goes, oh, yeah, I'd been driving for such and such time. It was more than a decade. I can't remember how long now. He goes, what'd you do before you got into trucking? I says, I was in the Air Force. And he goes, oh, I was too. And then I asked him, well, what'd you do? And he goes, I was a pilot. Right. So what'd you fly? I flew Tomcats and Cobras. Seriously? Okay. I know a lot of you guys are like, what the hell's a Tomcat? What the hell's a Cobra? Alright, so right off the bat, I told him, no, you didn't. I was like, yeah, I did. Like, bullshit. Yeah, don't tell me you didn't, that you flew those. I know for sure you didn't fly those. So I was like, yeah, I did. Seriously. I'm like, you're trying to tell me that you flew in a fixed-wing aircraft, a tactical aircraft that only the Navy ever flew, never the Air Force. And you also flew a rotary wing aircraft that belongs to the Marine Corps. But you were an Air Force pilot. Bullshit. Okay, remember, I might not have been a pilot in the Air Force, but I was an aircraft mechanic, and I know how our Air Force Specialty Codes, or AFSCs, work. And, I'm very good with picking up on patterns. And when it comes to Air Force pilots, they have basically 3 different AFSCs. You have an AFSC for tactical aircraft pilot, which is basically a fighter or attack type of aircraft, small airplanes that weigh maybe like 80,000 pounds at most. And then you have heavy aircraft pilots, heavy fixed-wing aircraft pilots, I might say, which basically could be anything like a C-26, C-130, basically anything that's not like acrobatic and can do all this kind of crazy shit. It can be anything from that all the way up to the gigantic C-5, which is the largest thing the Air Force has. Actually, the U.S. military as a whole has. And then there's another AFSC for rotary wing pilots. And we only have so many different types of rotary wing aircraft in the Air Force. H-60 Blackhawks, or as we call them, Pavehawks, are the most common. And then very seldom, there are very few units out there that also might have something else like a H-53 or something. And they're probably a special ops unit if they even have that. So, we're talking about like Hurlburt Field, Florida, or Kirtland Air Force Base in Albuquerque or somewhere. Those are special ops wings. Or there's another special ops wings in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I don't know. I mean, I didn't really have a tendency to see Air Force helicopters unless they were H-60s, and I saw a ton of those. And I also know that Air Force has enough hard time keeping its own pilots and its own airplanes. Because they make them sign up for 8-year terms because they know that a lot of the people when they they get their 4-year degrees and end up getting their commissions and end up getting rated for pilots. They'll do their 8 years, and no matter how much they try to entice them, with bonus, like incentive pay of some sort to keep them, a lot of them take off and go start flying for commercial airlines. In fact, one of the active duty pilots I worked with on the C-130s, he is to this day a pilot for Southwest Airlines. I'm sure there are other people, pilots I've dealt with frequently, but just didn't have any that kind of a rapport with, who I'm sure are all commercial airline pilots as well, and they're making well over $200,000 a year. Why the hell would they be driving a truck? And on top of that, Air Force, like I say, they have a hard time with retention for pilots because how much money the commercial airline pilots make. So they're not going to have their own pilots flying in Navy and Marine Corps assets. And on top of that, the different types of airplanes you have to get certified for, and it takes a long time it takes time to actually get certified for different types of aircraft, and not to mention if you're flying something that's totally different from your own type, that presents another problem with proficiency, because you lose proficiency to some extent on what you're actually supposed to be flying. Oh yeah, I fly an aircraft that has N1 compass system in it, or inertial navigation system, or something along that line. Then you go switch to something that has a completely different type of avionics and navigation system, and you have to relearn it, learn all of it, and how it's all operated and all that. And then you're not using the equipment that you were originally trained to do. So kind of like me, I was a good C-130, C-141, C-17, and KC-135 mechanic. There's a whole shitload of stuff I can tell you about any of those airplanes, but C-130, it's been so long since I've worked on those. There's a whole lot I probably forgot. I'd have to actually get back on them or read up on the tech data to even refresh my memory on certain things about that airplane. Even on the more recent ones, the KC-135s and C-17s, I probably would have to look in tech data for them. Like, oh yeah, I forgot this or that thing about it. Because it's been I retired in 2015. That was 7.5 years ago now. Summer of 2015 is when I retired. All right, so needless to say, the guy was blatantly full of shit to me, and I wasn't going to take it. But at the same time, I wasn't going to be hostile with them. And it's like, now let's get through this, eat dinner, and get the hell out of here and get back to my truck mode. I want to get some sleep and get the hell away from this guy or something. So I lost all respect for him. He was on my friends list at the time. Yeah, I unfriended him. I might have even blocked him. I don't know. I was like, I have zero respect for someone who does that kind of shit. I won't have anything to do with you. And honestly, if you didn't drive for JCT and he told me that, I would probably be a lot more hostile with them than I was. All right, so that was number 2. Third story here, final story, was actually a very, very recent one. Actually, you don't even have to go back a month from today. This month in January, I had that delivery in Houston at Weichon. I have it posted right here on my YouTube. You can look. You don't even have to go very far back to find this video of me making that delivery there. While I'm there, you can see that there's another JCT driver there making a delivery there at the same time as me. I end up helping him get backed into the lot so he can dock in. And after he gets into the lot safely, I go check in at the with the receiver, give him my bills, and when I come back out, I end up sitting there chit-chatting with this other driver. Okay, so the other JCT driver here at Weichon, he is not the poser himself. He is unfortunately an unwitting victim of somebody else's bullshit. And I'm going to tell you the story on this. Basically, while I'm talking to him, so I told him I have almost 6 years of trucking experience now, and I'm retired Air Force. And he was telling me about how he had a Oh wait, no, I don't know how, but we were talking about airplanes, yeah, and pilots in general, and how they have a kind of arrogant mentality a lot of times. I guess that they're king of the world because they're flying an airplane. Um, and then not every pilot's like this. I can assure you that. Some of them are down to earth people and good, really good people, and others, yeah, they do have that I'm better than the world, like I'm freaking Hollywood mentality just because I fly a damn military aircraft or something. And yeah, it happens. Anyway, this guy had this impression that Air Force pilots all had had a stereotypical personality to them. And then he was telling me about how he had driven for. Okay, the only other company he'd been with prior to JCT was Stevens. I can't remember if he drove for them for 1 year or 2 years, but I might have been 2 years. But he said that he was a trainer with them for a while too. And he had one particular trainee on his truck who said he was retired Air Force. Yeah, he was actually a retired Air Force pilot. Retired Air Force pilot. And he's driving a truck. Okay. Again, I'm calling bullshit on it. Yeah, I waited for him to finish telling the story. And he says this guy said he had served for 35 years, and he was age 60, I think it was, and now he's learning how to drive a truck. Well, I mean, I guess there could be a person out there who just wants something fun to do, and that doesn't involve playing golf. Sorry, there's a stereotype among Air Force brass that everybody who has bars or some kind of insignia on their shoulder instead of their arms probably plays golf a lot. And if they're retired, they're probably going to be wanting to spend all of their free time playing golf or traveling or something and getting free flights. Yeah, I'm going to tell you some more on this here. So this guy, 35 years as a pilot in the Air Force. And I was like, when he gets through telling me about this guy, I told him, I hate to break it to you, but this guy you trained is completely full of shit. And the guy was like, didn't really know how to respond to that. Like, he wasn't sure whether to be offended that I called his trainee a bullshitter, or whether to be offended that he was actually gullible enough to believe the guy's bullshit. Yeah, I could tell by the body language that he wasn't sure how to react to it. Like, it caught him off guard, and he wasn't sure whether to be offended by what I said or not. So I said, okay, look, let me explain to you. I'll explain in detail why I think he's full of shit. Okay, first, this guy really was retired Air Force. He's going to have a retiree ID card. Which I happen to have. Okay, when you're still serving, whether you're military or civilian, you get what's called a CAC card, or a Combined Access Card. And it has like this microchip. It's just all white and it has a microchip on it. You might have seen it if you've seen like NCIS or something. But retirees, you get a card that looks like this. Okay, I told you I'm retired reserve, so mine is pink. Retired active duty, they get one that looks just like this, but it's green, not pink. So that's the first thing. If the guy really was retired, he would have for sure a retired ID card with him. Second, something else that if someone claims that they're military, any good military vet will have something like this. This is called a challenge coin. Okay, this is a coin from my unit at March. I was actually, now a lot of times you can buy them from your unit. Your squadron, what we call the orderly room or CQ section, whatever. Buy them for like $10-20, whatever they are. And it's usually got the patch for your specific squadron on one side and something else on the other side usually is what it is. This one here in my wallet, it's a maintenance group. maintenance group coin that was awarded to me by the maintenance group commander for. Really, I thought I was just doing the right thing, staying late to get an airplane greened up with a female mechanic I was working with. We were changing a rudder trim actuator on a KC-135, and I ended up deciding to stay a few hours late to finish up the job so other people could do their work on it as soon as possible after that. It was, I was on military time that day, so I didn't see much of it. I got, and a couple months later, I go to commander's call, and a group commander shows up there, and he coins both me and the woman who was working with me. But now let me tell you about the challenge coin. So it serves two purposes. If you're a veteran, and if someone tries to claim that you're not, you can use the challenge coin because, mind you, you're not going to have an ID unless you're still serving or you're retired. If you did like 4, 8, 12 years, whatever it is, and you no longer serve, well, you don't have an ID anymore. You don't have base privileges anymore. So, for that reason, it's typical for veterans to actually have a challenge coin on them. Because if you have a challenge coin from your unit that you were part of, or maybe that you might have traded with other people you served with in different units or something, you'll have some kind of a coin in there showing some kind of military unit associated with your branch, in all likelihood. And if someone questions whether you were in the military, you can pull out your challenge coin to see, look, here's my coin from my such and such unit. That's the idea behind it. There's another purpose for it is when, especially when you're in a deployed location. It doesn't matter where you're at. I mean, I could be in Italy, and which I spent a lot of my active duty time at, and we could just be at one of the bars in town in Aviano, and it could be like a group of us all, who all work together, hanging out at one of the bars drinking. So one thing that'll happen sometimes will be somebody in the group will throw their coin out, and basically it's a challenge everybody to make sure they actually have theirs. And the idea and the thing is if somebody's in that if someone throws their coin and someone in the group does not have one, the person who does not have their coin has to buy all the beer. And then if someone throws a coin out and then everybody else turns out they do have one, then the person who threw the coin gets to buy the beer. It's kind of a camaraderie, esprit de corps thing that we do here with the service. I'm sure Marines and soldiers and sailors do the same thing to some type of extent. But so those are the two bases for having a challenge coin. All right, so I showed them those two things, and then I told them, okay, here's the other problem. There's a thing called high year tenure in the Air Force, and I happen to know that from bottom to top, on the enlisted ranks, what the high year tenure is. So if you're an E4, you can only stay in for 10 years. If you can't make it to E5 by the time you get 10 years, then when your current enlistment's up, bye-bye. You're not allowed to stay in. We're not going to re-enlist you. If you make it to staff sergeant, you can retire. You can retire right at 20 years, but you can't go any further. If you make it to tech sergeant, your HYT is 22 years, and then if you make, which is an E6, which is what I retired as. E7 or Master Sergeant, you can go to 26 years, if I remember right. And then E8 or Senior Master Sergeant is 28. And then Chief Master Sergeant is 30. So if you're enlisted at all in the Air Force, you cannot go past 30 years of total service. The only way you can do more than that as an enlisted would be if you were a dual status employee like I was, where I was getting paid as a full-time civilian, WG or GS employee, and my civilian position stipulated that I also had to be a drilling reservist in the same unit that I was a civilian with. So I explained to them all this. I told them the only way you're going to have more than 30 years, even on the officer side, in the Air Force, would be if you're a general officer. So we're not just talking, oh yeah, I made colonel in '06. Yeah, colonels can retire. They can only go to 30 years, and they have to retire. Yeah, and then everything below colonel, they have even shorter amount of time they can stay in. So unless the guy was a colonel, I was actually a brigadier general or 4-star, on up to 4-star general, then there ain't no way in hell this guy stayed for 35 years active duty. Or unless he was a reserve, like dual status, like I told you about my own position, where, and only then there was a stipulation with that where I could stay past my military HYT time until I got to my civilian retirement eligibility requirements, and then once I hit civilian retirement requirements, then I had to go. I had to leave on both. So this guy was full of shit. Just plain simple, full of shit. And I told the guy, this guy is full of it. And he even told me, the guy had a different kind of personality than what Air Force pilots in general who he dealt with seemed to have. And I'm like, because he was full of it. He wasn't really a pilot. And I guess, I'm pretty sure he really was, because he even showed me pictures of himself in the cockpit. And I said, he said he was a fighter pilot, right? Like flew F-16s? He's like, yeah. Okay. Fighter pilots, they wear a helmet and they have a mask over their face. How do you know that was really him? Heavy aircraft pilots don't normally have a mask on at all and that kind of stuff. We have pressurized cabins, and they might wear sunglasses and maybe a ball cap of some sort, and that's it. Otherwise, it's, hey, look at me, I'm in my flight suit and sitting in the seat with my seatbelt on and freaking making the airplane do what it's going to do. Or talking to air traffic controllers, or talking to the guy in the other seats, the guys in the other seats, and that kind of stuff. Fly in a fighter aircraft, they always, they tend to have, I think they have unpressurized cabins, so they always have the masks on them. So you can't clearly tell that that's that person's face behind the mask and helmet. And it's like, so I told him that. He might have shown you a picture of somebody in an F-16, but it was probably not him. Not to mention, and I found out HYT, like I mentioned, the only people I've ever known who did more than 30 were generals. 1, 2, 3, or 4-star generals. So I was like, I hate to burst your bubble, but this guy was full of shit. And I think he finally believed that what I was talking about, especially when I showed him my retiree card and my challenge coin and educated him on how things are done. And it's like, I told him, and if this guy was a general, generals, even when I was serving, were making just base pay alone a little over $10,000 per month. This is base pay alone. This doesn't include the subsistence, also known as food allowance or housing allowance, that they also get, which is not even taxable. And when I told him when I first enlisted, it was called BAQ, Basic Allowance for Quarters. That's your housing allowance. And then they changed it to BAH, Basic Allowance for Housing, because some officer always has to cement their legacy somehow by changing this or that, reinvent the wheel somehow. Change threat con to FP con, Force Protection Condition. From threat condition to force, that's one of those other stupid things. I like the sound of threat con more than FP con personally. Anyway, beside the point. My point is, he would have had to have been a general, and the kind of money that generals make. And then housing allowance, and how much you get for housing allowance is based on two things. One would be your rank, and two would be whether you're single or have dependents. So the higher your rank is, the higher your housing allowance is going to be. So, someone who's a staff sergeant at Edwards Air Force Base, for example, is not going to get anywhere near as much housing allowance as maybe a full bird colonel who's actually the wing commander of that base and is especially if the staff sergeant is single and the colonel has a wife or kids, or I should say a spouse, because there are also colonels who are female. Um, Regardless, I mean, for general, so we're talking way over $10,000 a month in total compensation per month when you're actually still serving. And under the legacy retirement system for active duty personnel, they get 50% of their base pay automatically for the rest of their life. So you get someone who's making $10,000, $11,000 a month from base pay alone when they were still serving, and now they're still making at least $5,000, $5,500 a month in retiree pay. And on top of that, I don't know really hardly any officers who I dealt with who did not also have some kind of an investing kind of mindset. They all always, they all at least to some extent talked about their, 401k, IRA kind of stuff, or investing in regular stocks on the side as well. So, they're putting money aside and making it do stuff for them as well as their base pay. So, they're making all this money. Why the hell would they need to be getting in a truck and driving it? They don't. It's just pure and simple. They don't need to be in a truck. Why would they do that when they could pay a few grand or so a month for golf course membership, golf club membership, and go there every damn day, get exercise, enjoy themselves, enjoy their time, and even get free military flights for life for them and their family to a bunch of different places. Which, on that note, one of my active duty friends, he retired from McChord Air Force Base in Washington. He was a C-17 crew chief. He and I worked together on C-130s when I first enlisted, and he is always going on trips, basically catching free military flights, if not driving his pickup and travel trailer around the country, with his wife and kid. They go to Hawaii a lot. They were just in Romania, I think it was, recently. I've seen him go to other countries too. He's always going out and doing fun stuff. He DJs on the side, but that's just for fun to keep occupied because his wife also works as a masseuse, I believe it is. And he does it for fun, but they still do a whole bunch of getting out and doing fun stuff. So again, why would a guy who's retired Air Force with 35 years as a pilot be anywhere near the wheel of a truck? He wouldn't. Unless you seriously got some problems of some sort, really poor financial management, which I doubt. Anyway, that's it for those three stories. I'm sure I could have more to cover. I don't want to. This is going to be a long enough video as it is, so I probably should just go ahead and end this one here. Hope you guys got some good listen and enjoyment out of this about how crazy some people are with their bullshit stories, and how easy it is for somebody who actually does have that kind of a background to sniff out a bullshitter. It's just like the guy I was talking to, who at that Weichon delivery, he said he was a blacksmith before. Okay, so I could sit there and talk to him about steel forging or whatever, smelting and all this kind of shit, and sound like I have an idea what I'm talking about, but do I really? No. I'm certain that I could probably try to talk to him in some relatable way about blacksmithery, and probably to an average person sound like I know what the hell I'm talking about, but to him, he would sniff me out as a complete bullshitter a mile away. That's just the way it is. And for me, I don't know. Me personally, just my own views. Why do I need to tell some bullshit about what I've accomplished? Or I don't. And people do that for what? So they can try to impress people, so they can have friends, because they don't have any. And then why? If that is the case, why do they do that? Why do they feel like they need to tell this bullshit or be so life of the party type, whatever, to have any kind of friends or respect? because you lose all of my respect as soon as I figure out that you're a poser personally. I don't want anything to do with you then. All right, so that's all I have. Be happy to hear some of you guys tell some of your own stories, vlog it or whatever, or send me a link to it or whatever. Even if you want to write something a little bit more terse in the comments section about your experiences with posers or somebody you're not really sure about, but maybe you're a civilian and you don't know, but maybe this person or that person could be one. Feel free to throw it in there. Myself or somebody else can maybe give some more insight into that, help you out with that. All right, hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll have more footage for you guys tomorrow. I hope very soon, tomorrow or the day after this one becomes available. I should have the delivery here down the street to what the hell? It's Smithfield. Corky's or something like that. Curly's Smithfield. I just have to go straight up this street right here to my right, and 4 miles pretty much, and go into an industrial area over to the left, and there it is. So we'll have that coming for you guys soon, and I don't have a pre-plan yet after that, but hopefully I'll get something pretty quickly. It's not looking too good for today, so maybe tomorrow very early I'll have something, and don't know when I'll be going. So we'll give you more update on that video or as soon as we can. All right, you guys have a great day. We'll see you guys later.